Level 1. $0. You're 22, you live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And in 30 years, every person laughing at you tonight will be eating dinner at a table you own, behind a gate with its own zip code. Right now, you have a job and no money. The job is at your Uncle Marcus's gas station. The pay is experience. Family doesn't charge family, he says true, except family doesn't pay family either. So you're really just volunteering at a Conoco station, where you still get written up for clocking in late to a job that pays nothing. You're at the kids' table. Across from you sits an actual 9-year-old with a savings account and a girlfriend. You have neither. Then Marcus Gold Chain, 3 stations, the richest man anybody here has ever met, flicks a $2 scratch-off onto your paper plate. There's your retirement, college boy. Try not to spend it all in one place. The whole table laughs. The loudest laugh in the room belongs to the man who runs it. You scratch it. You lose. $2 gone in front of God and all your cousins. See? Marcus says. Even a scratch-off won't take a chance on you. In 30 years, that same man begs you for money across a desk, hands shaking. But Marcus is not the reason you make it. The reason is 2 seats down, watching his brother humiliate you and saying nothing. Your father. He's been saying nothing your whole life. And the one thing $100 billion will never buy you is the 4 words he can't get out of his mouth. Level 2. $25,000. You call home from the parking lot before you've even pulled out of the space. Your father answers on the 4th ring. The way he answers everything like the phone owes him money. The job they swore you couldn't get. Junior developer at a logistics company that routes freight trucks across 3 states. $25,000 a year. Barely a life after taxes, just enough to be poor in a slightly nicer way. But it's the first money that arrives on a schedule instead of by accident, and you taught yourself every line of it at 2 a.m. on a cracked laptop with a borrowed charger. You wait for him to say he's proud. What you get is a throat clear. Good, he says. That's good. A pause long enough to drive a truck through. Don't let your uncle hear you bragging. That's it. That's the whole parade. You learn something about your father in that silence. The pride is in there. It's just buried under 30 years of a man who learned that wanting things out loud is how Marcus knows where to hit you. Marcus catches you the next week by the cooler. So you're leaving family for a computer job, he says. Not a question. You worked his counter for free for 2 years, and walking out is somehow the betrayal. Steady paycheck now, huh? Smart. Don't go getting any big ideas. He'll bless you, but only while you stay small enough to bless. A few months ago, still working that counter, you asked a girl named Danny to coffee. Your card declined on a $4 latte. She Venmo'd you the $4 so it's not weird, and you never heard from her again. You told yourself it was the card. You knew it wasn't the card. So you spend a little of your first real money proving you exist. You take a coworker to the Olive Garden and leave a 22% tip you can't afford, just so nobody thinks you're broke. She orders the never-ending breadsticks, says that's so cool without looking up, and does not text back. You've stopped getting your card declined. You haven't started getting chosen. There's a difference, and you feel it the whole drive home. At the family potluck, you carry in a Costco half-sheet cake like a trophy, because to you it is one. Cousin Vinny eats a third of it standing up and mutters must be nice through a full mouth. He skipped your graduation. He can smell a sheet cake from 3 zip codes, but the thing you remember from that whole year happens in your driveway. One morning, your Corolla's check engine light on since the Obama administration is just off. The oil's changed. There's no note. Your father did it at 6 a.m. before his shift at Marcus's station, on his knees on your cold concrete, in the same work gloves he's worn your entire life. He can't say the words, but he can fix the car. For him, those are the same sentence. You almost throw the dead scratch-off out cleaning that car. You don't. You slide it into your wallet like evidence, and you decide very quietly to get the biggest ideas anyone's ever had a table of your own, long enough that one day even Marcus has to be invited. Level 3. $100,000. You park the BMW 2 blocks from the duplex in front of the Family Dollar. A grown man hiding a car. Like a teenager hiding a girlfriend, except the girlfriend is a sedan. The big idea's paid. A promotion and a side project that stopped being a hobby at 2 a.m. and quietly turned into income. 6 figures on paper for the first time in your life. So you bought a certified pre-owned BMW off the CarMax lot, financed over 60 months of payment, longer than most of your relationships. And you tell no one. You hide it like a man hiding evidence of a crime he's proud of. It doesn't matter. The number finds its way home without you. Your mother announces it at church to a woman she doesn't even like. She drops it in the family group chat with a praying hands emoji. And at the next gathering, something happens that not one person says out loud. You get seated at the adult table. No announcement. No ceremony. Your place is just set among the grown-ups. Years at the kids' table, commuted for good behavior. No parole hearing, no apology. Turns out a W-2 is the only lawyer that ever worked in this family. 4 days after the bragging makes the rounds, cousin Vinny texts you. Vinny, who hasn't sent you a single word in 2 years, who skipped your graduation. Yo bro, we gotta hang. 4 days. You notice the number. You don't know it yet, but you'll be counting 4-day intervals for the rest of your life. Danny likes the photo of you next to the BMW. The same Danny whose $4 latte your card couldn't cover. You look different lately, she writes. She doesn't mean you got taller. She means solvent. And the worst part is the small, ugly thrill you feel typing back. Then you overhear your mother in the kitchen, low and proud in a way she's never once been to your face. I think he's going to be bigger than Marcus someday. Bigger than Marcus. The gold standard of the entire bloodline said about you like it might actually come true. You feel something crack open in your chest, and then you look at your father. He's heard it too, and he is not smiling. For 1 second, his face does something you've never seen it do, and you finally understand the shape of it. Marcus is the brother who made it. Your father is the brother who didn't, and he spent his whole life standing in that shadow. Now his own son is about to step over the man who's been stepping on him since they were kids, and somewhere under the pride, a quieter thing is moving in your father's face. The fear that your win is just one more way he came up short. You wanted to make him proud. You didn't think being his pride and being his evidence might turn out to be the same thing. Marcus feels the shift too. He finds you by the cooler, not laughing for once. Tech money's fake money, he says, leaning in close. Comes fast, goes faster. I've watched 100 guys like you crash. He isn't warning you. He's afraid of you. You go home and frame the dead scratch-off on your desk. It used to be proof you'd never make it. Now it's the fuel. And quietly you stop wanting a seat at the adult table. You start wanting to own the building it's standing in. Level 4. $500,000. The side project you built gets acquired by a company in Austin you'll never visit. $500,000 suddenly attached to your name. And the family rearranges itself around you like iron filings around a magnet. You stop being a person at gatherings. You become an introduction. This is my son. He's doing very well. That's the whole sentence now. Doing very well. Not how are you? Not are you happy? Not did you eat? A title with a man attached, presented to relatives who lean in 2 inches at the number behind it. At 0, you were the kids' table. At 25,000, you were steady. At 100,000, you were a name people suddenly remembered. At 500,000, you're a balance sheet that shows up to barbecues. The ASKs have evolved. 200 till Friday is now we need $5,000 for the roof. It's nothing to you. That phrase turns a request into an obligation you'd be a monster to refuse and shrinks you down into a line item. Then you do the big one. You wire off your father's debt, the second mortgage, the truck note, the credit cards. The whole quiet weight a working man drags for 40 years and never sets down. Gone in an afternoon. You expect him to cry. You expect, finally, the words. He doesn't call for a week. When he does, he doesn't mention it. Not once. And you realize what you actually did. You took the one fight your father spent his whole life fighting, and you finished it for him in the time it takes to approve a transfer. You didn't lift the weight off him. You told him it was never that heavy. That's not a gift. To a proud man, that's a verdict. 3 weeks later, your mother asks if you've seen Marcus Fuel's new flagship station opening up on Interstate 44. 3 weeks. That's the half-life of gratitude at this level. You can pay off the debt. You cannot pay off the comparison. The comparison is always Marcus. The dating's changed too. On a third date, a girl already knows your acquisition number. She Googled it before the appetizers came. She asks what you'll do with all of it, and smiles at you the way you smile at a slot machine that's about to pay. You can't tell anymore if you're wanted or priced. You still keep the declined card receipt in your wallet, behind the dead ticket. Some nights it's the real thing you own. There is exactly one person who never asks you for $1. Your father still clocks in at Marcus's station every morning. 6 a.m. the gloves. The brother who got rich making him feel small, and your dad pumps his diesel and counts his till and goes home. You're worth $500,000 and you beg him to quit. He looks at you like you suggested he stop breathing. A man works, he says. It's the only thing Marcus never managed to take from him, and he is not about to hand it to his son out of charity. You let it go. It's the closest thing to a boundary anyone in this family has ever respected. Then your phone buzzes. You've been added to a new group chat. It's called Family, with a little heart emoji. The first message in it before anything is a request. It isn't a chat. It's a queue, and you're standing at the front of it. Level 5. $1 million. Cousin Vinny slides his phone across the table with a one-page deck he built in Canva that morning. The font is Comic Sans. He calls it the Uber of something. And you already know how this ends. You took the acquisition money and you didn't retire on it. You started your own company. $1 million in the bank, a handful of employees, and a name on the door that's finally yours. And the asks stop being for roofs. They start being for ventures. Vinny has an LLC he made on LegalZoom the night before, and a $50,000 number he describes 3 contradictory ways in 2 minutes. You can already hear the boat in his voice. You say yes, once. But you have a real loan agreement drawn up, with a repayment schedule and a signature line. Vinny signs it like you've insulted his mother. We're family, he says, offended that family would put it in writing. The paperwork is the betrayal, not the asking. A cousin quietly becomes a counterparty. Your advisor at Fidelity has a phrase for it. Money lent to family recovers close to zero, he says. He calls it the family discount, and he isn't joking. So you start saying no. And the day you start saying no is the day you become the villain. Money changed you from 3 different relatives in a single month, 2 of whom you've personally bailed out. You were the family failure for free. Charge interest once, and suddenly you're the bad guy. You did change. The love didn't curdle. The love was always conditional. The money just walked into the room and turned the lights on. You were seeing someone too. She posted the restaurants, never you. She called your calendar, our schedule. And the one night you suggested staying in, no reservation, no photo, she flinched like you'd canceled Christmas. She was dating your runway. You ended it and felt nothing, which scared you more than the breakup. But the real money that year goes somewhere nobody knows about. You try, one more time, to buy your father out of his own life, retire him, end the indignity of a man working for the brother who looks down on him. He refuses every cent, the way he refuses everything that looks like pity wearing a bow. So you stop asking, and you do it the only way he'll never block. You buy the land. The lot under Marcus's flagship station on Interstate 44, the real estate, the dirt, the whole parcel through a holding company 3 names deep. Marcus doesn't notice. He never reads who he writes the lease check to. The brother who spent 30 years making your father feel like a tenant in his own family is now, quietly, your tenant in fact. Every month he pays rent to the nephew he handed a dead scratch off. Your father never finds out. That's the point. It's the only clean thing you've done with money, because for once there's no one on the other end keeping score. No thank you owed. No comparison coming. You did it precisely because he would never let you. That Thanksgiving, you sit there while your relatives debate your money as if you've already left the room. What you should do with it. Who you really owe. Whether you should bankroll an aunt's food truck. You've become a cap table there reading aloud over the green bean casserole. You set your fork down. You go home. You don't go back. And the moment you stop showing up is the moment the family starts hunting another way to reach you. Level 6. $10 million. You stop showing up. So the family built a way around your absence. The company scaled. $10 million to your name and a calendar that no longer has room for green bean casserole. And your mother becomes the lobbyist. Every request now routes through her. Softened, pre-negotiated. Delivered with, I told them I'd just ask. That's all. And when even her calls become too many, you hire an executive assistant in a different time zone to screen them. There is now a paid stranger standing between you and your own blood, deciding which relatives get through. You didn't plan this, it assembled itself without ever asking your permission. You buy your parents a house. $900,000 in Jenks Marcus's zip code, with an HOA that has opinions about your trash cans. Your father lasts about a month before it turns on him. The neighbors drive Range Rovers and don't wave back, and he mows the half-acre himself twice a week in the heat, in his gloves, because hiring a kid to do it would mean admitting he lives somewhere he can't afford. You didn't buy him a dream. You bought him a daily reminder that he's standing on ground his son paid for. At a birthday party, your 6-year-old nephew tugs your sleeve and asks the only honest question anyone's put to you in years. Why does Grandpa still work at the gas station if you're rich? The room goes quiet. Somebody laughs too fast to cover it. You don't have an answer. Because the truth is, your father still clocks in for his brother at 60-some years old in those gloves. For a wage you spend on lunch, and he does it because it is the last thing in his life that money didn't hand him. A kid who can't spell the word pride just found the one wound in this family nobody says out loud. Even the dating runs through the office now. One woman signs an NDA before dinner, and you spend the meal wondering which version of you she rehearsed for on the drive over. Then Marcus calls, warm in a way he's never once been with you. Just checking in on my favorite nephew. And you catch it immediately because you've been trained for years now. Marcus Fuel is bleeding a national chain, opened 2 exits down and undercut his pumps by 40 cents, and the bank is circling. And exactly 4 days after that news reached the family, here he is, calling you his favorite. 4 days. The same clock. Even Marcus runs on it now. You sit there with the phone in your hand, the framed scratch-off on the wall, and for 1 second you think how easy it would be to make him ask twice. You don't say it. You file it. Instead, you do the math, and you make a decision that solves everything and ruins everything in the same motion. You put your parents on a fixed monthly stipend, wired the first of every month, the ASX stop, and you sit with what you've actually done. You took a man who worked every day of his life so he'd never have to ask anyone for anything, and you turned him into a direct deposit. He'll keep clocking in at Marcus's station anyway. You already know he will. Level 7. $1 billion. Putting your family on payroll forces a structure underneath it. A growth round reprices the company, and the number on your equity crosses $1 billion. Not cash. Stock. A line on a cap table the world now treats as a fortune, the same paper that makes rocket founders richer than kings. So you build the machine that holds it. A family office, an estate attorney, an irrevocable trust with your relatives named as beneficiaries, a sentence that means love now requires paperwork to administer. Before you'll fund Vinny's next venture or touch your parents' stipend, lawyers draw the agreements, and one night, an in-law has to sign an NDA just to attend a dinner at your home. She signs it before she's even taken her coat off. Your attorney says it without looking up from the page. Everybody in your bracket does this with relatives. Especially relatives. Especially relatives. The people who are supposed to be the exception to every rule are, at this level, the exact risk you paper against first. Your name starts working without you. A cousin you barely know tells his coworkers he basically made you. Another launches a GoFundMe titled, Help Your Family, for a cause you've never heard of. And it raises $40,000 before anyone bothers to tell you it exists. And the math has quietly inverted. At $1 billion in stock, you're worth more than every Marcus fuel station this family ever bowed to, combined. The head of your own table stopped being a fantasy. It became a build date. Then Marcus comes to see you. Alone. No Escalade out front, the lease company took it back. No swagger in the doorway. The price war and a bad lease took 2 of the lots, and the bank is moving on the last one. He sits down across the desk from you, and the man who handed a broke kid a $2 scratch-off 30 years ago cannot lift his eyes off the carpet. He needs a loan. For the final lot. The flagship on Interstate 44. The one piece of the empire he has left. And the line is right there. Perfectly aged. Realistically, it's your best shot. 30 years you kept it, and here is the open door. You don't walk through it, because you already know something Marcus doesn't. The lot he's begging to save the dirt under his flagship, you bought it years ago? Through a holding company 3 names deep. He's been paying you rent and never knew. The empire he used to make your father feel small has been sitting on your land the whole time. You could tell him. You don't. You just write the check, no lecture, no interest, and slide it across the desk. Because needing to win the fight is its own kind of poverty. And you are not poor anymore. On his way out, he stops at the wall. The scratch-off is framed there. He looks at it for a long moment and understands exactly what it is and how many years you kept it where you'd see it every morning. 30 years of being the family's gold standard collapses in his face in real time. You won. You won the whole thing, your father's entire life taken back in one signature. And the one man who should be standing here to see it is across town in a pair of gloves, counting someone else's till. You feel nothing. The satisfaction never arrives, because the only person who ever needed to witness this isn't in the room. Then your phone rings. It's your mother. She's crying, and for once it isn't about money. Your father has collapsed. Level 8. $10 billion. You buy the whole hospital floor. You fly in specialists from the Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins within hours. You have $10 billion, and you point every cent of it at one stubborn old man in a bed. And you learn the thing money spends an entire lifetime hiding from you. It does everything, and it changes nothing. $10 billion, and the best it buys is a nicer room to lose him in. While he sleeps, you take inventory. 2 assistants, a family office of 9, relatives on stipend. Vinny, who you finally moved onto a consulting retainer he consults on nothing. They are all warm to you. Every single one. They are also every single one on a payroll you sign. You go looking for the last person who ever entered your life without an ask attached. The search runs back 30 years. It ends at this bed. He wakes up. He sees you the Loro Piana coat, the man from the Forbes list, and his eyes do the same thing they did the night you got the job. He reaches for your hand, and his grip still has the callus, the one no amount of your money ever sanded off. He doesn't ask about the company. He doesn't ask about the number. He asks if you're happy. And you, who can buy anything on earth, cannot afford to answer him honestly. So you lie. You say yes. He nods and lets it go. His last mercy. And the 4 words you've been chasing your entire life, he carries them right past you, out the door, the same way he carried everything. Unsaid. He dies on a Tuesday. His one request, weeks before, was that you clean out his locker at the station yourself. So you do the richest man in the state, standing in the back room of a Conoco, in front of a metal locker held shut with a combination he never changed. Inside, the gloves, a thermos, and his wallet. You open it. Behind the cracked photo of you at 8 years old, folded into a hard little square worn soft at the creases, is a printout. The day your company's valuation passed Marcus Fuel. He printed it at the library. He carried it every single day, against his chest, into the station owned by the brother who beat him. On the back, in pencil, in the only handwriting you'd know anywhere, 2 words. We won. Not you. We. He'd been in the fight the whole time. Silent in the corner of every room, keeping score against his brother through the one weapon he had, and that weapon was you. The pride was never missing. It just never made the trip from his chest to your face. In the parking lot before the service is even over, the family is already arguing about the estate. You walk past all of it. A man stops you at the door, gray-tired, your father's shift partner for 20 years. Your old man, he says, never shut up about you in there. Drove us crazy. He bragged to everyone alive. Everyone but you. Marcus is by the door. Smaller now. Genuinely grieving an old man who just lost his brother. For 1 second, your eyes meet over the casket. It isn't forgiveness. It isn't war. It's just 2 men who both knew him, and only one of them ever told him so. You put the gloves in your coat pocket. You get in the car. You drive. You don't pick a destination. Level 9. $100 billion. The years after he died, you poured into the only place the ache had ever gone quiet, the work. The company stopped being a company and became a category. The stock kept climbing while you stopped checking it, and your share alone is worth $100 billion. And years later, you host the family. Not at a restaurant, at your estate. At a table long enough to seat every one of them, in a house they need a code at the gate to enter. Everyone from that first Thanksgiving came. And every one of them checked the seating chart for how close they landed to the host. You can see it from the head of the table who approached from which side, who rehearsed the ask. The choreography now fills a ballroom you watch like weather. One of them brought a pitch deck to a dinner party. There's 1 chair you left empty. Nobody knows why. You do. You became the head of the table they swore you'd never reach. You can date anyone in any room, buy any street you grew up broke on, and they still orbit the number, not you. You got everything. And the one man you got it for, the one who'd have looked at all of this and just quietly fixed something that wasn't broken so he'd have a reason to stay near you, isn't here. The pride you spent $100 billion chasing arrived in a dead man's wallet, 2 words long. Off to the side, there's a kid's table. At it, a broke 22-year-old cousin talking too loud about an app nobody at the big table believes in, catching the same pitying smiles you used to catch. Not everyone's a Marcus, somebody says, and the table laughs the same laugh. You are watching yourself at 22, so you get up. You reach into your coat and pull out a worn pair of work gloves, his gloves, the ones from the locker, the ones you've carried since the funeral, and you put them on. The richest man in the country, in a dead mechanic's gloves, in a suit worth more than the BMW you once parked by the Family Dollar. You walk to the kids' table and pull out a chair built for 10-year-olds, and you sit down on purpose. You set the framed dead $2 scratch off in front of the kid. He'll understand it the day he needs to. Then you say the thing, the 4 words your father carried his whole life and never once got out of his mouth. You say them quiet, so the big table can't hear, to a broke kid who reminds you of no one so much as yourself. I'm proud of you. The one thing money could never buy, given away for free by the only person in this family who knows exactly what it's worth. At the head of the room, Marcus Oldnow, in a small role you gave him so he'd never have to ask, lifts his glass to you. You nod back. The war's been over since the day you stopped needing him to lose. You stay at the kids' table in your father's gloves, the richest man in the room, finally saying the sentence your whole life was just a long request for. You spent $100 billion to learn it was always going to be 4 words, and a man who couldn't say them. For the first time in 30 years, nobody at this table is counting you, and the one man who never did isn't here to see it. If this story stayed with you, like and subscribe for more.